Hello everyone, I am going to start my class. This is for 6th semester major student and the paper is 6.4. The topic is Korean War. Already I have discussed about the Vietnam War. So much this topic also very much related to Vietnam War, in a sense that Vietnam War that is also influenced by the Cold War, and Korean War it is also influenced by the Cold War. Korean War was a war between North Korea and South Korea, started on 25th June 1950 when North Korea invaded South Korea with the support of Soviet Union and China. At the end of the Second World War, USA and Soviet Union liberated Korea from the Japanese control and divided in 38 parallel in North and South Korea in 15 August 1945. So, I have already told you that this war also related to the Cold War. So, before going to discuss about the causes of the war, little bit about the Cold War. What is Cold War? Cold War is a state of hostility that existed between the Soviet bloc countries and the Western powers from 1945 to 1991. The Cold War was a period of geopolitical tension between the Soviet Union and USA and their respective allies, the Eastern Bloc and the Western Bloc. After World War II, the period is generally considered to span the 1947 Truman Doctrine to the 1991, the dissolution of Soviet Union. So, for more detail about that the Cold War and also the Truman Doctrine, the domino theory. So, we can go with my other topic, that is the Vietnam War. Okay. Now come to the causes of the war, causes of the Korean War. Firstly, on 25th June 1950, 75,000 soldiers of North Korea invaded South Korea with the support of China and Soviet Union and crossed the 38 parallel and entered the South Korea. So, this is number one. Number two, the People's Republic of China also secretly sent forces to Korea across the Yalu River, afraid that USA was interested in taking North Korea for her base against Manchuria. So, this is number two. Number three, the ongoing Cold War was one major cause of the war. China and Soviet Union support to North Korea and automatically brought USA's armed help to non-communist South Korea against the communist supported North Korea, as China and USSR, Soviet Russia supported North Korea. So, automatically America came to help South Korea. So, it was the influence of the Cold War. Number four, the Korean conflict created tension between USA and Soviet Union, and that become the major instigation of the war. Relation between China and USA became strained when China became a communist country in 1949. The President of USA, Harry Truman, worried that that other countries around China, they become communist. So, USA supported South Korea. Harry Truman, he was very worried that other countries around China will become communist. So, USA supported South Korea. So, communist China joined in the war on November 1950 with a heavy, massive Chinese ground attack against American forces. Soviet Union also entered the war against the Japanese army and sent forces against the Japanese occupied Korea. America also established its presence in the war, and the war continued till 27 July 1953 with lots of casualties. So, ultimately, although it was a conflict between North Korea and South Korea, ultimately after joining America and Russia and China and America, so it turns to that the Cold War conflict. So, then the war, it continued for 3 years. 3 years of a bloody and frustration war. It was a 3 years bloody and frustration war. The US and the People's Republic of China, North Korea and South Korea agreed an armistice. Ultimately, they agreed for the armistice, and that brought to the war to an end. The armistice ended America's first experiment with the Cold War concept of limited war. But if you see the results of the war, neither side actually won the Korean War. It cannot be said who won the war. Neither side actually won the war. In fact, the war goes on till these days. There conflict going on till this day, since the combatants never signed a peace treaty, South Korea did not even sign the armistice agreement of July 27, 1953. So, without solving that the problems, the Korean War came to an end. And we have to discuss about the casualties also. Nearly 5 million people died, 3 million Korean, mostly civilian, 1 million Chinese, and almost 40,000 Americans died in the war in action in Korea, and more than 1 lakh were wounded. So, this was the casualties of the war. Now, a little bit about the significance of the war. Although it did not solve the problem, but still it had some significance. The Korean War, it is very significant. Firstly, the war marked the first large scale military enforcement of the policies of containment. After the end of the World War, USA adopted a global foreign policy designed to prevent the spread of communism at any cost. So, it was the first military engagement. The Korean War was an important event in the history because it signified the fighting between communism and capitalism. Number 3, UNO intervened in the war and sided with South Korea. UNO also intervened and sided with South Korea. And lastly, the war also gave China an opportunity to assert its ability as a world power capable of strong military action. The war also gave China an opportunity to assert its ability as a world power capable of strong military action. So, these are the significance. So, I think you have an idea about the causes of the Korean War, its background, and also that again it's the Cold War conflict, how America and USA and along with America and USSR, Soviet Russia along with China had entered in the war, and ultimately how without any decision, so war came to an end. Okay, that's all. Thank you.